Hi everybody, Brian here again from touringplans.com. And if you missed the last video, this is part 2 in a series of 5 about planning a Disney World vacation when maybe you aren't the most seasoned veteran of it like we at Touring Plans are. If you missed the last video, we talked about how to choose when you would go to Disney World, and that link is popping up right over my head right here. If you want to go back and watch that before continuing this video, that would probably be a good idea. This one we are going to figure out how long we are going to stay for. Again, I am using Disney World as the example here, but a lot of these principles are applicable to both Universal Orlando or Disneyland, both of which are properties that we cover at touringplans.com. Figuring out how long to go doesn't have quite as many steps as figuring out when to go did. The big one is budget allocation. Now that doesn't necessarily mean how much you are willing to spend, although that does come into it. Figuring out your budget before figuring out how long to go is sometimes helpful because you can make your money stretch a little bit when you're there. For instance, in the last video, I discussed the possibility of taking a trip in February versus taking a trip in June. In February, the full price rate for Port Orleans French Quarter, a moderate hotel, is $40 per night cheaper. If I'm going for 5 or 6 nights, that definitely adds up. It could add up enough that maybe you can stay an extra night. Another thing to consider is where you're staying. The Disney Value resorts definitely don't have quite as much space and the amenities aren't quite as nice, but they are still very nice hotels and they're quite a bit cheaper. If you are staying 5 nights in a moderate resort, maybe you could stay 7 in a value resort. And if you are even considering deluxe, you could save a ton of money by going to value. For instance, 2 nights at Pop Century are cheaper than 1 night at Wilderness Lodge, which is one of the cheaper deluxe resorts. And 3 nights at Pop Century are cheaper than the Grand Floridian. Although I don't think there's going to be a lot of people that are considering the Grand Floridian and going to Pop Century instead, but that is the option. So if you work out that budget and say you can only stay 3 nights at Wilderness Lodge, well, maybe you can stretch out that trip to 5 nights staying at Pop Century and get a lot more done for your money. Another good way to stretch your budget is dining. There are 2 basic categories of dining at Disney World. There's quick service or counter service, it's called, where it is like fast food style. You order at a counter, you find your own seat. Then there is table service, which is you sit down and are waited on. Within table service, there's also a category called signature. These are the nicest and most expensive restaurants for the most part at Disney World. And kind of overlapping both of those is the character dining. Character dining is where you dine with characters, no surprise there. And you can eat with characters like Winnie the Pooh and Tigger at Crystal Palace, or you can eat with princesses or Mickey Mouse, any of those. And character meals tend to be on the expensive side because you're paying for both the food and the characters. So another way maybe to stretch out that budget you've already made is by eating more at quick service, or maybe exclusively at quick service restaurants rather than the table service or signature dining. Tickets, surprisingly, are one thing that might not add as much more. Once you get past about a 4-day ticket, the price changes very incrementally day to day. For instance, if I look at the touringplans.com ticket calculator, which can help you find the best price, of course, linked down below here for those that are curious, it shows me that for a family of 4, I can get a 7-day flexible ticket, so no specific dates, for only about $80 more than I can get a 5-day ticket, and that is for a family of 4, so we're talking only about $20 per person there for 2 extra days in the park. And with that date-specific ticket pricing, you might also be able to change your vacation by a day or 2, save a little bit. It's not going to be a lot, but maybe you can save $10 or so a person, enough that maybe adding on that extra day would be worth it. There will be a video on tickets coming out next week, so keep an eye out for that, where I will talk much more about the tickets and the date-specific pricing. Of course, other things you need to figure out when talking about how long to go for is what parks you really want to visit. Now keep in mind there are 4 theme parks and 2 water parks at Walt Disney World. Plus there is also Disney Springs, the shopping and dining area, and lots of amazing hotels that maybe you want to check out a couple of those. You could easily go for quite a while and not really see everything. But on the other hand, you could definitely do a 4 or 5 day trip and visit each park and a couple of hotels. So I don't think that should necessarily be the deciding factor. Now, if you remember just loving the Magic Kingdom from your childhood and want your kids to experience the Magic Kingdom as much as possible, you're probably going to want 2 days there. The other parks can definitely be done in 1 day. It might be a little rushed, but it can be done. And if you want to go for fewer than, say, 4 days, 2 or 3, then you might just have to cut off a park. Maybe don't visit Hollywood Studios this year because Star Wars Land is opening in the end of 2019. Maybe skip Epcot until the Ratatouille attraction and the Guardians of the Galaxy attraction are open. There are ways to do it for sure. So I think you're almost better off picking the number of days based on these other factors and then just figuring out how much you want to visit each park. But one thing you should figure out is whether you will want rest days. Me personally, the way I like to travel is to take partial rest days, where we go to the park, say in the morning, and then go back and rest for a while and go back in the evening, or stay in the park a little bit into the afternoon and then don't go to a park. Stay at the hotel, swim, dinner at a different hotel, things like that. Some people like to just take a straight up rest and relaxation day all day, maybe right in the middle of their trip. So if you're thinking about that, maybe add a day, maybe add 2 days if you have young children or elderly or people with mobility issues with you that maybe would have a tough time getting around all day, every day. And the last thing is how often you go. A lot of people that are Touring Plan subscribers and big Disney fans and things like that will go once a year, multiple times a year sometimes. If you go once a year, or if you are planning on going again in 2 years or 3 years, maybe your kids are young and you want to go a couple of times while they're still young, and you're planning on going once in 2019 and once again in, say, 2021, then maybe you don't need to go quite as long this time. You could do a 5-day trip this time and maybe plan on doing 7 days next time when a lot of the newer attractions are open for the 50th anniversary of Disney World in 2021. But a lot of people do generational trips or once in a lifetime trips. You can work it into your budget, and this is a trip that you will only take once every 10 years, or perhaps you are just planning this to be the only trip that you ever take to Disney World. I would definitely suggest a week or maybe more if you can do it. I think 6-7 days is a good range for most people. You can definitely visit all 4 parks. You can go to the Magic Kingdom twice. You can ride everything, plus take a little bit of time to either visit a water park or swim at a hotel pool or go shopping at Disney Springs if that's your thing. So hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments below other things that you consider when deciding how long to go for, and go ahead and ask any questions you have. I will be there to answer them for you. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time when we discuss how to choose your Disney World hotel. Bye.